If you're sending any notifications to your team using HighLevel, then you need to take a look at how you've configured your system. As you probably know, we can use HighLevel workflows to send notifications for things like missed calls, a new lead, a new good review, a new bad review, a reply to a text message when an opportunity record goes stale, when an opportunity record is won or lost, when a contract is signed or not signed, a new order, a failed subscription, a new successful payment, or any other few dozen triggers that can kick off a workflow. Now, some of these triggers are critical and notifications should probably come through at any time so your team can respond. However, if you don't want to be pestered by notifications that can wait until it's not a weekend, during a holiday, or after hours, then there's a better way to do it. And it's actually probably a bit different than you may be thinking. So, in this video, I'm going to cover 3 things. First thing is the typical way of doing this and why it's a bad idea to do it that way. The second thing is the simple custom value hack that stops your team from getting bombarded with these notifications during non-working hours, while still ensuring there's never a notification that falls through the cracks. The third thing is how to bolt this onto any HighLevel workflow in just a few clicks. Now you might be wondering, why not just let the notifications run like normal across all workflows? That's what I thought until I had one client where I had set up their system to notify them of all new leads that had come in through their website. Now, once their ads really started to work well, this created a situation where they were getting way too many notifications over weekends, holidays, and after hours. Now, some companies may be totally fine with that and actually want to respond to all new leads at any time, but this client really protects their time off to rest and recharge. So, I put my thinking cap on and came up with a solution that works really well for them. And so that's what I want to share with you. Now, if you have some experience with building workflows in HighLevel, you might be thinking that there's a really easy solution to this problem. We could simply use a wait action and set it to only run during working hours. And you would be right, but it actually creates a new problem. And let me show you what that is. All right, so here I am in a recipe for the missed call text back. Again, with my client, it was for leads, but the same principle applies no matter what workflow you're working in. In this workflow, it is triggered if a call is missed. And the item down here at the bottom that is of interest is this notification and this notification. The recipe has both notifications. Typically, you would only have one. So I would typically just delete this one and end up with one SMS notification going to the assigned user to let them know that there was a missed call. Now, to solve the problem, again, you might be thinking, well, let's just add another action here to wait until it's business hours. So add the wait action, click the advanced window, and then configure this down here to run only during normal business hours. Now, what would happen is this would solve the problem but create a new problem, like what I was saying. So what's going to happen is, say over the weekend, you have a 2-day weekend or a holiday, 3-day weekend, you're going to get a bunch of missed calls in this example using this workflow. If it's the workflow for the new leads, you may get a bunch of new leads over the weekend as well. So say you get a lot of high volume calls. You may get 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 calls or 100 calls, 100 leads, whatever it might be. And so what's going to happen is, as those people come into this workflow, they're going to hit this step and wait until it's Monday morning at 9 a.m. And then whoever is the poor user that is assigned to all of these contacts, their phone is going to be flooded with text messages. It could be 10, 20, 30, 100 text messages come in all at once. And so that's the new problem that is introduced by doing it this way. So instead of doing it this way, we're going to create a secondary workflow, take the notification out of this workflow, put it into the secondary workflow, and use a custom value to control how those notifications are sent and to whom and when they're going to be sent. So before we build that, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with custom values versus custom fields. Custom values are used for dynamic content that are available system-wide and across any contact record in any workflow. And that's what we need to use, custom values. Custom fields, some people get those confused with custom fields, very similar, but custom fields are specific to each individual contact record rather than system-wide, and a custom field can only be used by a contact record in a workflow. That individual contact record, only that contact record. So that's the difference. Therefore, we're going to use custom values and not custom fields. All right, so what we're gonna do is go set up that custom value, create the secondary workflow, and then come back and modify this workflow so that they all work together in concert. Now, we want to set up the custom value and secondary workflow first, get that running so that this is a live environment, we don't wanna break this automation, this workflow before we have the other pieces ready to go. So we're gonna do it in that order. So let's get out of this workflow, go into settings, over to custom values down here, lower left hand. And I've already set this up just to make this go a little quicker. We're going to call this custom value notification queue MCTB for missed call text back. And I recommend doing this notification queue, this process that I'm going to show you here, for each type of notification if you want each notification to be handled differently or different messaging to your team based on what type of message it is, whether it's missed call text back, new lead, or failed payment, or whatever it might be. You might want to handle things differently. So that's why I'm going to set this up specific to missed call text back. Okay, so this is set up. Simply set it up and then put in the custom value. If you never set these up before, just give it a name and give it a value. It can be saved with an empty value. However, in the workflow, the custom value cannot be updated to be empty. So I simply just use the word empty to designate that this is empty. And then we're going to update this custom value to be a different value when we want it to act differently in the workflow. So you'll see what I mean. So just set it up like this, call it this, and give it a value of empty. And then what we're going to do is go into workflows. And I have over here in my recipes folder, MCTB, and I have a workflow set up, again, to make it flow a little bit quicker here. And just call it lead notice after hours queue MCTB. And again, you'll want a separate workflow for every type of notification if you want them separate. If you want them just all workflow, all notifications to be handled the same way, you just need one workflow and funnel everybody, all workflows into this secondary workflow. So you'll notice this does not have a trigger. It's set up that way on purpose, and I'll show you how to trigger this in the primary workflow here in a second. So no trigger. Right off the bat, we're going to use an if-else. So this is a condition, just search for if-else. I like to rename my conditions of what I'm evaluating. So in this one, I'm evaluating the notification queue for MCTB. And then I like to name my branches as well, just to be very specific of what I'm doing so I can very easily remember what's going on. So notification queue equals full. So what I did is I just looked for down here, custom values, and I only have one right now. Notification queue MCTB is, and full. If it's full, I want it to go down this one branch over here. If it is not full, does not equal full, then I want it to go down the other branch. By default, if it doesn't equal full, it's going to equal something else. And in our case, I explicitly set the value to empty, the value empty, not deleting it. So if it comes down this branch that it does not equal full, that means no other contact has yet gone down this branch, meaning that there has been no other need for a notification to go out. Therefore, the custom value has not yet been set to full. So what we're going to do right off the bat, so that no other contacts run through this workflow down the not full branch. And again, you got to remember that each workflow is triggered and flows based on a contact record level, not system wide. So this is why we're using, again, custom values, not custom fields. So if no other contact record has run down this branch before, what we're going to do is allow the first person to run down this branch, set the custom value to full. So this is using a action called update custom value. Allows you to update any custom value to any value, any new value. And so that's what we're doing. We're setting it to full, and immediately once this value is set to full, that would mean that this if-else action would be true for this branch, and therefore new people would go down this branch and just stop. They would end, not go any further, and that would be that. But the first person that goes down We'll update the custom value and then wait. And this is where we put the wait action. Again, if you remember earlier in the video, we don't want to overwhelm whoever is the assigned user to be notified in this action. So this is just one single person that's going down this branch. They're going to wait until whatever we set here in the wait action. We're again 0 minutes. We don't need them to wait at all according to a time length. Instead, we want to have it run based on a set of days and a set of times within those days. So once this becomes true, then we're going to send the SMS, and we're going to send it to the assigned user. You can go to a custom number or whatever you want based on your particular preferences. And then this is just the default content. You can change this obviously to anything you want. That SMS is going to go out on the next time that this wait action is true. And then what we're going to do is set this value. I had actually forgot to do this right, so this is good. We're going to set this value because at this point it would be set to full because this person would have just come through it. It would have been updated to full up here. And so down here, I want to reset this to empty or whatever it is that you're going to put in this up here. It can be basically anything other than full. You just need something other than full so that it's not true and it runs down this leg, this branch instead of that branch. All right, so this updates that custom value that then resets it and allows it to run anew next time it's not normal business hours, the next evening, holiday, weekend, whatever it might be. And again, this is going to run one time. That's the key here. That's the magic. And this is the way that we don't overwhelm our team or ourselves with notifications. All right, so now that we have this workflow set up, this is for, again, the notifications. We're going to go ahead and save this, and then we're going to come back to the primary workflow. In our case, it's the auto missed call text back workflow. Come in here, and we're going to delete these two actions because, again, we have those in the secondary workflow. So I'm going to delete this wait action, and I'm going to delete this notification. And then what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to put in an if else above this SMS, and I'll explain why here in a second. But we're going to search for if else, and we're going to condition, we're going to evaluate time of day, day of week, and this branch is time of day equals business hours. And then the other branch would be not equal to business hours. And so what we're going to do is use this option here, time of day. And so what we're going to do is set the current hour to, or time of the day. Either one of those work. They're pretty much the same. Current hour has fewer or larger increments. The time of day has smaller increments of what you can select as time of day. So is after, we'll say 9 a.m. All right, 9 a.m. And this gives you a nice little readout of when this would be true. And this is actually not what I want. And this is why I like this, because I always mess this up no matter how many times I do this. I don't know, my brain just doesn't understand how this works. So is on or after, I think, is the one I need. There we go. That's what I want. 9 a.m. Okay, cool. And we're going to use the and operator and then use time of the day is before. Let's see if I get this one right. We want it before 5 p.m. Cool. I got that one right. Okay, I always mix those up. All right, so that's going to run between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. any day of the week. So obviously it's a weekend. If it is a weekend, we don't want it to run either. So this is one segment of logic. I want to add in another segment of logic, and I want to change this to or rather than and. So what we're going to do is time of day, let's see. It's current day of the week is what I want, is not, is weekday. All right. So this is going to be business hours. So 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the weekdays, this is going to run. Now, holidays is a whole different story, and I have another video that shows you how to set up for holidays if you want to set this up for holidays as well, but it's a little bit more involved, so that's why I made another video. All right, so now I got this logic set up. I can save the action. One branch is business hours, other branch is not business hours. And if it's a business hour, going to go through the normal flow, and I actually need to add it back in my notification that I should not have deleted. And actually, I want to show you something real quick that is new. So let me come back out of here. It's new as of a few days ago. So if I come in here, we can actually copy. So if you have some other action that you know is set up properly, I can copy this action and then come into a different workflow. So we can now copy and paste between workflows, which is really cool. So I can come in here and then hit that little paste button and voila, it's there. Super cool, super happy about that. All right, so I actually want the notification to happen like normal if it's during normal business hours. All right, so we got the notification going to the lead, we got a notification going to the assigned user internally. And then on this branch, what we're going to do is simply add in an action called add to workflow. Going to add that in, and we're going to do lead notice after hours queue MCTB, this one. And then what we want to do is if we have nothing else below this action, then it can just stop there. If, for example, there was like another email that went out or something else that's happening down here, which in this situation we don't necessarily need. We'll just do content, can't spell and talk at the same time. All right, so if there was something else, what I would do here, just to illustrate the point, is I would have an await action here as well so that people wouldn't flow down this until they are meant to flow down this. Obviously, if it's just an email, we can just have it go through and continue on. So I'm actually going to add in a go to action first to illustrate. So if that was an email, that'd be totally fine and cool. We could just do that. However, if there were something else down here, like a call action, we wouldn't want that to happen until it was business hours. So if this weren't here, and if it was just a call action, it would still want to go to the call action, but here we would want to wait until it was business hours for that to flow through and hit the call action. Obviously, if it's during normal business hours, we can have a call action for the assigned user to call the lead, the person that just called and missed the call. We want them to call as soon as possible in this scenario. Again, not necessarily how I build it, but I just want to illustrate the point that you need to kind of think through the entire workflow and figure out what the best workflow would be for this particular situation. All right, now to my point that this can be bolted on to any workflow, all you need to do is simply create the secondary workflow, which is over here. All you need to do is create this workflow, the lead notice notification workflow, and then you can simply add this add to workflow trigger action to any existing workflow, and then above that add the if else evaluation. This way you can add this to any workflow at any time, however you see fit. Now, one other important thing to know is that this modification needs to be coupled with an additional way to keep track of your notifications. For example, if you have new leads coming in and they create a opportunity record in a pipeline and you're not getting notifications for every single new lead, then you would simply want to create a new opportunity record for every single new lead and put them in a stage that would indicate that they need to be contacted. Now, this is a normal way of doing things and you should already have this in place, but I just wanted to point that out in case you don't actually have that in place. With missed call text back, for example, you may want to create a task for every new lead that comes in or every missed phone call that comes in over the weekend. And again, you would just use the if else condition there and create a new task on the not business hours work branch, which would be this one here. You could just create a new task here and assign it to the proper person, and that would allow you to go through the task page in HighLevel and know exactly who you need to deal with. Again, the whole point of this workflow, this modification, is to prevent the overwhelm for a bunch of notifications coming in over the weekend or stacking up and coming in all at once when it is not when it is working hours again. Now, to that point, what I would do on this leg of the logic is I would actually copy over this, still send an SMS, so paste that over, And then what I would do is I would change this content to acknowledge that it is after hours and that to not expect a call right away. We'd still want to engage them, still want to send them the text message, but I have just found that leaving this default message in here sets expectations so that they're expecting some sort of reply even though it's business hours. So you just want to set expectations properly just to make sure that you think through the entire flow and accommodate for the changes that you're making to the default standard recipe. All right, if any part of the build out that I just did was unclear, if you have any questions, please let me know below in the comments and I'll help you out there. Or if you have a particular workflow you'd like my help with, you can go to my website at christurley.com/build and submit a build request there. I use those requests as ideas for my upcoming videos, and I might just build out your workflow for my next video. I really would like to be able to share my knowledge so that you can get the most benefit from HighLevel. It's such a powerful platform, but it can be confusing. And sharing your challenges with me will help me to do that, help you to use HighLevel in the best way possible. Which brings me to my next point. If you don't have a workflow that allows you to respond to all new website leads within 60 seconds, you're missing out on a big opportunity for growth. Because here's the thing, if you can respond very quickly within that 60-second time frame, you'll likely 5x your sales without actually improving your product or sales process. At least that's what Harvard says. So click over to this video right here and let's see about getting you a 5x multiplier on sales. It'll be fun and I'll show you how to do it step by step. See you over there.